Welcome to the second day of our Intercultural Festival of Anglo-Saxon countries. Today we are going to talk about Australia. So let's get started. Aboriginal Australians have lived in the nation from at least 50 millions of years. This means they have the oldest living cultural story in the world. When the British arrived in 1788, as many as 2,050 different languages were spoken across the nation. The Australian Institute of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Studies has produced this map detailing the languages used across Australia. An Aboriginal word of Sydney language that means yesterday is a project detailing the Aboriginal history of Sydney area. The Dutch first sighted Australia in 1606 before Captain Cook claimed the land from Great Britain. In 1770, the first fleet of 11 boats have arrived at Botany Bay. In 1788, to establish New South Wales as a penal colony. Convicts were later sent to other states with the exception of South Australia, which was established as free colony in 1836.
Australia Territory. Australia is located in Oceania, between the Indian and South Pacific Oceans. Although it is a large country, its topography is not too varied and most of it consists of low desert plateau. The southeast, however, does have fertile plains. Area. Australia is the sixth largest country in the world, with an area of 7,741,220 kilometers. Australia has a number of political divisions that include New South Wales, Queensland, Northern Territory, Western Australia, South Australia, Victoria, the Australian Capital Territory, and Tasmania. Australia is a federation of 6 states together with 10 federal territories. Mainland Australia is made up of 5 of the 6 states and 3 of the federated territories. The Inner Territories. Tasmania is an island state about 200 kilometers south of the mainland. The remaining 7 territories are catalogued in some situations as external territories. History. The history of Australia is about the lands and peoples of this continent. People first arrived on the continent by sea from maritime Southeast Asia between 50,000 and 65,000 years ago, ethnically and culturally distinct from Aboriginal people. The first Torres Strait Islanders arrived from what is now Papua New Guinea about 2,500 years ago, forming the northern tip of the Australian landmass. 29 other Dutch navigators explored the western and southern coasts in the 17th century and named the continent New Holland. The first fleet of British ships arrived at Botany Bay in January 1788 to establish a penal colony, the first colony on the Australian mainland. Supported by immigration of people from nearly every country in the world since the end of World War II, the population grew to more than 25.5 million by 2020, with 30% of the population foreign-born. Borders with other countries. The country occupies the main landmass of the Sahul Shelf, as well as some isles in the Pacific, Indian, and Antarctic Oceans. The closest countries to Australia are Indonesia, East Timor, and Papua New Guinea to the north. The Solomon Isles, Vanuatu, and the French dependency of New Caledonia to the northeast, and New Zealand to the southeast. That's all about the territory and location of Australia.
I'm going to talk about Australia. Well, you must have a valid USA passport and visa to enter to Australia and to be in Australia. Australian society values the English as their national language. The government of Australia is parliamentarism, representative democracy, constitutional monarchy, and federal monarchy. The national anthem of Australia is Advance Australia's Fair. Did you know the population of Australia was around 25.69 million of people living there? This one is the flag of Australia. These three crosses are called Union Jack and they're red. All the stars are white, and this one is called Gamma Crux with 86 light years. This other one is called Delta Crux with 256 light years. The Epsilon Crux has over 57 light years. This star is called Alpha Crux or A Crux. The Beta Crux or Mimasoma has over 424 light years. And the most important star, the Commonwealth Star.
The flag and currency of Australia. Its original design with a six-pointed Commonwealth Star was chosen in 1901 from entries in a competition held following Federation, and was first flown in Melbourne on 3rd of September of 1901. The date proclaimed in 1996 as Australian National Flag Day. A slightly different design was provided by King Edward VII in 1903. The current seven-pointed Commonwealth Star version was introduced by a proclamation dated 8 December 1908. The dimensions were formally gazetted in 1934, and in 1954 the flag became recognized by and legally defined in the Flags Act 1953 as the Australian national flag.
And now let's talk about some typical food in Australia. Australia's quintessential dish is meatloaf. There are typical foods that, although they are not consumed as much as the dish that we have just mentioned, constitute a very accepted delicacy among Australians. This is also the case with cabanossi, which are a kind of sausage of cured meat similar to salami. Other common dishes in the Australian diet are those cooked meat from exotic animals, such as crocodile, kangaroo, or buffalo. Crustaceans known as mud crabs and JB prawns are also important. These are some types of food that is the most common in Australia. Australian roast beef, chicken parmesan, crab sticks, barramundi, kangaroo meat, burgers, veggie meat, and rolls. In addition, the meats and cuts that can be found in Australia are of quality and very varied. In addition to the typical beef, pork, and chicken, you can eat kangaroo or even emu, two of the typical Australian animals with healthier traits due to their low percentage of fat. Thank you for your attention.
Now we will talking about the dressing of Australia. The rural style of buswen is characterized by jeans with old skins, cut rabbit fur horse, and a horse. In the clothes, the traditional is a sweater, pants, and a hat.
Dress and the first Australians. While colonial settlers rewarded clothing as a means of displaying power and prestige, the same is not true of the indigenous Australians, variously accepting and disavowing the Western clothing system. Their concerns have been and
are focused on community affiliation, ceremonial adornment, or political resistance. In customary life, indigenous people went largely unclothed, apart from kangaroo and opossum skin cloaks, marking their bodies with their pigments and adorning them with accessories of local fibers, shells, bark, and leaves.
These are the most important fun facts of Australia. A curious fact is that has the largest monolith in the world called Ayers Rock and is considered a cultural heritage of humanity since 1987. It is the only continent in the world without any active volcanoes. Australia is the only country where koalas live. They can sleep up to 20 hours a day. And finally, we found that Australia have 3 times more sheep than people.
That's all about Australia, its culture and traditions. Thanks for watching.